All right, going live in three, two, one. Well, this is No Limits with Amanda. Amanda is on again with me this evening. How are you doing? We're up to episode number 9, by the way.
Whoa, it's been so fun. It flies by so quickly, don't you feel like?
Yes, yes, and technically it's actually a little bit more than 9 because the first couple of episodes we used the generic video title because we hadn't come up with a name yet. So we're probably closer to like 12, I'm thinking. So
Wow. And look at that. Can you believe it's already November too? Like,
I know.
let's just completely change the subject, but I can't believe it's already November.
Yeah. And talking about November, when November hit, I pretty much had to turn the heat on almost immediately. I don't know if I had this conversation with you or not, but it seems like in this area there's no leeway. It's like or very little leeway between like the summer hotness and the coldness. It just seems to go like right from one to the other. So I went from like 80 degrees all the way down. Well, to like 50 degrees during the day, but the overnight dropped down to below freezing. So the heater had to come on. So
Yeah, I feel like this year was especially that way where it went right from summer into winter. 'Cause I feel like I took the dogs for a walk the other day and I had to wear 3 layers. And I was wearing a wool coat with a scarf and a woman was laughing at me yesterday.
was she laughing I think pointing her finger and like slapping her knee or just a little
She said, "You must be somebody who hates being cold." I'm like, "Yes, I do hate being cold. I love the heat. I'm such a heat person."
uh, what was what I'm just curious how cold was it? Was it like below freezing or was it like average or
No, it's like 40, 45, 50. It's just how I am. I hate that. You know what it is? I think it's because I teach hot yoga. So I'm so used to being in 85-degree rooms that once the weather starts to change, I'm just so uncomfortable.
Hmm. You would hate this. When I worked over at Clear Channel, I worked with this guy, and I don't mean to poke fun of his he was a little overweight, so I'm not poking fun of, but I believe that was a contributing factor to this. He would it didn't matter what time of year it was, he'd walk over, his winter, summer, whatever, he'd walk over and turn the air conditioning on every day, and everybody had to it would drop down to like 50 degrees, 50 to 60 degrees inside the office where I had to walk back over and turn it back up. And it was like a constant back and forth with him. I'm not someone who likes extreme heat, but at the same time, I didn't want the cold that he kept on bringing into it was just, he wouldn't even ask anybody, just walk over there, turn it down, it would drop down. And it was just annoying.
My husband actually has cousins that are like that. I remember I was over their house a few summers ago, and it was so cold in their house that it was actually painful. So I sat outside the whole time for the
Oh,
visit. Everybody was inside the house, and I sat outside. I was like, I'm not going to be uncomfortable like that the whole time.
wait, outside, wouldn't outside be colder though?
No, this was in the summer.
Oh,
They blast the air conditioning, so I sat outside in the heat. I didn't really care.
oh, wow. Oh, okay. I it's funny you bring that up. This brings back a memory way back when I was like like a teenager. I worked at this car dealership, and it's funny because we had this meeting one day, and I never forgot it. I guess because the coldness didn't bother me that as much back then, and we had we were in a trailer in the back lot of the dealership, and it was freezing, bitter cold, but because it was so hot outside, it didn't bother me in the slightest. So and I do remember everyone, the guy who was giving the meeting, saying something like, "Yeah, maybe we should turn the air conditioning off. It was just a little too cold in here." But
Mhm.
it just I don't know why I remember that. I don't even remember what the meeting was about. But it's when you said that, it just triggered that memory of being in an extremely freezing cold room. But it didn't bother me in the slightest. Now nowadays it probably would, but back then I just especially like I said, I think it was probably like 90, at least 90 plus outside. So.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess being young, maybe that helps. Young blood.
My grandfather used to tell me stories that he would I because back then I could tolerate the cold for long periods of time, and he told me one time that when he was younger he used to go fishing. He loved fishing; it was one of his favorite things, and he would stand outside in the freezing cold, and as long as he was doing something he liked, like fishing, it didn't matter how cold it was, it didn't bother him in the slightest. But he also told me that because of his age at that point, I think he was probably in his 70s at that point. He was like, now the cold bothered him. At that point, the cold bothered him a lot. So,
Mhm. I
well,
guess it's like a mindful activity, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And the funny part is, like, he was standing perfectly still. He said it didn't bother him. I mean, I know, I used to walk around. I used to have a paper when I was a kid, and it'd be freezing cold, and I would start off. I would usually, if it was cold outside, I'd run the route. I wouldn't walk it. I'd run it, and because I get warmed up. And, I remember walking out, wearing just a t-shirt and shorts in the middle, and it was freezing cold outside, and for the first few minutes, I was freezing, but by the time I was, got, like, a few minutes in, I built up enough heat that it wasn't bothering me at all. I was, like, perfectly fine with it. So, uh,
Mhm.
if that like I said, I was very young, though, so it was like I was probably, like, I think maybe 12 years old, so,
Mhm. I feel like when you're a kid, these things don't affect you as much.
yeah. So, let's see, what was oh, yeah, we were talking about the question from last week. Let me go ahead and bring that up so we can take a look at our responses here. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I was also curious to see if, YouTube blocked us.
Nope, 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 they did not. It looks like, 1,500 or 1,400 votes there. Yeah, they didn't block us at all. We're good. So,
Mhm.
do you think people should have the right to choose, when it comes to vaccination mandates? And overwhelmingly, yes, at 84%. And we got a tie for the rest at no, and I don't have an opinion on that. So yeah, that's 100%. Yeah. Did we talk about that? Sometimes if you add up the percentages, it doesn't come up to 100%.
Yeah, we spoke about that a few weeks ago, that one of the other hosts realized that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. I've been trying to keep an eye on that ever since. So let's take a look here. Let's see. Today, uh, today that the government stops lying to us, it'll be the day that I'll take that shot. Interesting.
Mm.
See, no, our government should be no. Okay, this kind of left out some punctuation here. No, our government should because they rewrite they rewrite about everything. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure if he's being. I'm not sure if he's being sarcastic or I should take that seriously. So, uh, vaccination has no 100% guarantee, only psychological. Interesting. No, it brings up a interesting thought too. Uh, as far as the vaccination, I was highly concerned with the idea that these vaccinations were still too new and what kind of side effects vaccinations that people take for other diseases have been around for years, maybe even decades, and this one's so fresh. How many people are actually worried about the idea that there might be some side effect that hasn't been established yet?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
let's see, and it's just another. Oh, trash pharmaceutical product. It should not be mandatory. Greed and medical malpractice are still rampant. Oh, my mouse is annoying. Rampant issues in medicine, and the vaccines are widely available, and they should be enough to keep the vaxxers happy. Okay.
Mm.
We got oh yes, please, absolute yes, up capital letters yes, and then someone's responded a different language. It's communism. Let's see. Samdeep Mohanar, who, by the way, did he recently he said he's taken a hiatus from YouTube. Were you here that day when he said that, when he left that comment?
No, I didn't see that. How disappointing.
Yes. So, Sandeep, if you're, we wish you well on your hiatus he said 2 years until he comes back. So,
Whoa, okay.
and this was kind of a long one from Renegade MS. I don't think I'll read the whole thing, but um, I'll read the first couple. This isn't a personal choice. It's a matter of safety in the United States. We currently have over 700,000 people killed by COVID, and variants are forming, such as Delta. And okay. So basically, it looks like he's saying that he's for the mandatory vaccinations.
Mhm.
So he's in the minority there. It looks like, and only one
Mhm.
other person said yes, of course. But I mean, as far as the voting goes, it's definitely not in his favor. So
Very interesting.
yeah.
Mhm. Thank you
So
everyone for sharing your opinions.
yes.
I love to see, like, other people's mindsets, because we all have different perspectives, so it's very informative, and I'm somebody who I like to listen to both sides of an issue, and I can always see. Usually, I'm like I am a Libra, right, my sign, so, like, I'm always balanced like the scale, so I'm always looking at both sides of the situation, so I love to hear other people's opinions.
Uh-huh. Of course, I mean, I'm sure that there are sometimes where you may have more than just two opinions. You might have more, like maybe three or more sometimes too, right? It's,
Absolutely. Yeah, like they say there's 3 sides to a story, so yeah. Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, I try to do that. When I was younger, I was pretty much locked into my beliefs, but as I've gotten older, I've like yeah, I try to make sure I listen to both sides. I remember scenarios where people would say one thing and then people would just without listening to the other side would just go, "Oh, that makes sense." And then if I came into a situation like that and then tried to give my point of view, they go, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," but they hadn't heard my point of view yet, so it was kind of frustrating. So
Mm. That's very frustrating. At least listen to it and then make fun of me for my
yeah.
opinion.
Alrighty. Well, let's see. Well, we had discussed this beforehand. We wanted to ask a question that I think will hopefully bring how would you describe it? Maybe a little bit of a laugh to
Yes.
yes.
Mhm.
So how do you want to phrase our question for tonight for this evening?
Maybe should we say, "Do you trust politicians?" Or, "Do
Yeah.
you believe that politicians are mostly liars?" I don't know.
Let's say politicians. Okay. Do you trust politicians or we could make like a two-part question. Do you think they're liars? How's that as well? Is that what you
Sure.
said? Okay. Oops. I left the H out of think. There you go. Oh, the spell corrector is working today. Oh, what did I do wrong? There you go. Think they're is it LIARS?
Yes, liars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Cool. Okay. All right. So what would be the first response? How about hell yeah?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Uh, maybe like something like, I know I trust every politician.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty.
You forgot an R in every.
Oh, thank you.
Every.
Gotcha.
You got it.
There we go. Alrighty. What else do you think there should be any other responses to this?
Mm,
So I'm just curious, what are you eating over there?
me?
Yeah, are you eating some sounds like you're eating something.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It sounded like you're munching on something. Sorry. I guess I'm
No,
listening
I
to
before I had a holes in my mouth. I don't know if you heard that because my throat is bothering me.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what I heard. I
Maybe
thought okay.
I'm sorry if everybody heard that. And my throat's been bothering me. Um,
I usually I do voice you know that I do voice work a lot, so sometimes when I get allergies, my throat would dry up and get all raspy, so I would actually take Halls, but it had to be the one that had the special little creamy middle, like in the
mhm,
and I wasn't I wa even though Halls is made for, like, sickness, it would still help my throat clear out a little bit, so
mhm. All right, good advice. I'll go pick those up tomorrow because the one that I have doesn't have that liquid on the inside.
mm.
Um,
There's another one I couldn't find it, my called Rickolai. I'm actually looking at the bag right now. It's actually I haven't taken them in a while, but I have them on standby just in case. So,
those are good. What about I don't vote or I don't care?
okay.
Something like that.
Okay. And let's see. We could put like we could make it a do one I don't care, as like you said. So, like that.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Is that anything else or do you want to leave it like that?
No, I think that's all I have, unless somebody wants to write something in.
Okay. Okay, okay, yeah. Um how would you phrase just leave a comment, I guess?
Mhm.
Uh okay. All right. Okay. All right. Do you trust politicians? Do you think they're liars? Hell yeah. No, I trust every politician. I don't vote. I don't care, and leave a comment. That last one's kind of awkward there.
Yeah, so take that out.
Okay. All right. Alrighty. There we go. Just three. Okay. Ready?
Mhm.
Okay. There we go. Cool. All right. So I had stated that that there are some politicians that I do mostly trust. I think Bernie Sanders is a pretty decent person, for the most part.
Mhm.
Uh, I also think Ron Paul was a pretty decent person for the most part. So
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
so but yeah, as a general rule, yeah, I don't really trust too many politicians out there. So I used to be more on the Democratic side, but over the past 10 years or so, it just seems like it seems like they're just neither side is just worth rooting for anymore. I just look on see if it doesn't matter what party they're under, I'll just look to see what they're actually voting for or what they stand for. I mean, and if I like them, I'll vote for them. So I don't vote along party lines anymore. Is what I'm leading up to. So.
Yep, I'm the same way. I was, like, diehard Democrat because I guess because I was raised to believe that that was the way that because my father was in, the electrical union, right? So we were the union backed Democrats, so I was just raised to believe that you vote the whole way down Democrat. And now, like you, Zoom, I don't necessarily align with any party. Like, I vote based off of, you know, the issues and the politicians themselves. I don't necessarily align to a specific party.
Mhm. Yeah, and my one of the things I look for is, like, the people who are anti-war and pro-peace, who are truly anti-war and pro-peace. So, that's a leading factor for me a lot of times, and, when those people I brought up before, Ron Paul and, Bernie Sanders have both been,
Mhm.
very anti-war, so and I really feel that they are, so and other factors too, but yeah. I even governed on the Democratic side. I think he passed away a few years ago, so um,
Mhm.
yeah, but yeah, it's yeah, and yeah, I just look at when I was a child, my parents were they kind of changed. They were both diehard Republican types. I remember that for because they both voted for Reagan back in 1980, and then shortly after that, they kind of switched and became Democrats. So, and then it was like in my family, it was like everyone was supposed to vote Democrat. Like my parents, myself, and it was like that was the mentality, and I used to remember that the Democrats were more the from the '60s. That was the more of the peace party. So like you had the hippies and everything, but as time's gone on, it's not really the same anymore. It's those things have kind of changed. So.
Mhm. I actually had a conversation with my husband about this the other day, and he said the same thing. He said, like, growing up, he was raised to believe that the Democratic Party was the way that, the middle class were, like, in I guess, in air quotes, like, supposed to vote, but things have definitely changed, exactly like what you're saying, Zoom, and I guess it makes sense that it started, like you're saying, in the '60s with, peace and the hippies.
Right. And
Mhm.
I will say, of course, and even back if you go a step, the Democrats changed even more radically during the '50s because back then you had the Dixiecrats who were more segregationists. So
Mhm.
and so it's all over the place with the Democratic Party at this point. So
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
every 10, 20 years they seem to like to jump around. So they're not consistent as what it seems like. So
Mhm.
and my let's see, I find it quite interesting. My dad is still mostly Democrat, and he married a woman. She's a very nice woman. That she's a diehard conservative Republican. So it's they when it comes to politics, they don't. My dad always says whenever it comes to anything with religion or politics, they kind of just don't talk to each other about that kind of stuff.
Wow, I wonder if that would affect a relationship if you couldn't talk about things like that. Or I guess you just agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think he just doesn't want to make any waves. He just wants to keep the
Mhm.
peace. So, and she's my dad is not religious, but he does have some sort of I'm not sure how to describe it. He believes in something. I'm not sure, but it's not religious at all, as far as the conventional religion, I should say. But she is very much a born again Christian. So she's very much she doesn't like swearing. She doesn't like the Lord's name and taken in vain, and she really gets upset about a lot of things. So he has to be careful about watching what he watches on TV. Um, and the funny part is I never even knew that about that people were offended by that. Like if you use the Lord, I'm trying to not to offend anybody here. So, but I remember watching TV and she was getting all upset, like she because they were saying the GD. So and she would get really upset. I was like, wow, I never knew. And she's a very nice person, but she doesn't like that. So
Yeah, I guess everybody's different, right? That's what makes the world go round, all different people.
yeah, yes. And but yeah, it's quite interesting. Whenever I'm over there, yeah, they definitely keep to they. I've never seen them talk about it. It's like they get along, so they have their interests, of course, but obviously the certain things are just kind of left off the table there. So
Mhm. Fair
that's
enough.
so did you the movie that we were talking about that we were going to talk about this week, the holiday.
Yeah, what did you think, Zoom? Were you mad at me for making you watch it?
No, it wasn't bad. No, it was an interesting movie. I do think that the movie, in some ways, is kind of unbelievable. In other ways, kind of I could relate to. So it was all over the table for me, all over the place for me. So some things are like, yeah, come on, that doesn't make any sense. That's silly. I can't. That stuff can't happen. And other parts are like, oh yeah, I can fully relate to that. That seems very, very plausible, very believable. So
Mhm.
um,
It's definitely like a feel-good movie, like, you don't have to think during it very much. You can just kind of enjoy what's right in front of you.
Yeah, so the movie we're talking about, and I'll bring up here the IMDb page, was The Holiday from 2006. So let's see, who's it? Cameron Diaz. So the basic plot is two women. They're both. What is the one woman? I forget. I'm not. I don't. I forget the actress's name. So you have to forgive me on that.
Kate
So
Winslet. Kate
yeah, yeah,
Winslet.
yeah, yeah. She was
Mhm.
yeah at the very beginning. She's still madly in love with a man who doesn't love her, and she was what the other woman. Who's the other woman is in this? I forget her name again.
Cameron Diaz.
Who it is? Yeah, I
Mhm.
just said that too. Yeah. So and basically they're both in who was she in love with? Who's I forget now. All of a sudden, who was Cameron Diaz? Was she
She wasn't she broke up with her boyfriend at the beginning of the movie because he said that he basically was cheating on her.
okay? There's it right here. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so they broke up and then she had this beautiful house, this wonderful career, and she dumped him and then she felt like she hadn't done anything other than work for so long, so that was why she decided to go on vacation.
Right. So yeah, the two of them, the two characters, they decide to switch houses, so to speak. Yeah, it is right. I guess they did. They did switch houses. So
Mhm.
one, so go on vacation. Is that something that's done? I've never even heard that before.
I've never heard of that before until this movie either, so I didn't know if that was real.
Okay. I don't know if I would want to switch houses with somebody just randomly on the internet like that. Who knows what come on what we might find when you come back into your house. Um,
No, I agree, and people like, nowadays, you can't do things like that. So that's a point, I guess, of the movie where it was a little bit not believable, right? Like,
yeah.
who would actually do that with somebody over the internet? They didn't even speak on the phone, they were just, like, messaging each other.
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny that you the messaging thing. I there's recently, and I'm not going to mention any names. I met a woman online, and we talked a few times, but then she switched over, and she didn't want to talk to. This is very recent, like within the past month. So and
Mhm.
we were talking, and she decided she just wanted to send text messages only, and I kept on saying, "Can we talk on the phone again, or would you like to maybe go to lunch or something?" And she kept on saying, "Oh yeah, we can do that," but we would never do it, and it got kind of frustrating after a while. So and I after a while, I just kind of broke off the whole thing with her because she told me at one point, finally, after we had talked for like over a month, she said she was not interested in anything romantic coming from me, as the way she put it in one of the messages. So that kind of turned me off anyway. So I just kind of broke it off. But the whole idea, she was dedicated to just talking back and forth to me through text messages, and I'd never seen anyone like that before. It was very weird. So
That sounds very weird. I'm sorry that that happened to you. That's kind of annoying, just, like, kinda like she was maybe wasting your time a little bit, I feel like.
I did, and maybe she liked the fact that I was giving her so much attention and things, and she was telling me about her life, and eventually, like I said, it just got to a point where it's just like I'm back and forth with these messages. I'm like, this is just going on too long. I think texting is to me is just gets too impersonal. It's almost rude in a way. if you don't want to talk to somebody directly. And it's she and then the thing that really did me at the very end of our conversation is she said she didn't want anything to do. I'm bringing this up because it kind of ties in with the whole story here, with the romance and everything. I did become a
Mhm.
little attracted to her because we had talked a couple of times before we switched over to texting. Anyway, I was a little bit attracted to her, but not a lot, just a little. I thought she was a nice person. Um, right after she told me she wasn't interested in anything romantic with me, then the next message, like a week later, was like, "Oh," she was like all happy. She said, "Oh, guess what? I got back with my ex," and she was like, "Okay." After that, I was like, "Okay, that was it." I was just backed off there. So that was like the final straw right there. So
Yeah. Mhm.
that kind of made sense. At that point, I started putting it all together. I guess she was doing the texting thing with me because she was probably talking to him at the exact same time, trying to get him back. And it would be kind of awkward, I guess, if I were to start talking to her and meeting her in person or something. Maybe she just felt like it was keeping me away, so at distance away from whatever she was trying to do with him. I don't know. So
Mhm. I feel like it's so weird when people, like, play games like that, you know? It's
yeah.
like I think people don't realize, like, when you're meeting with somebody, you're sharing stories, and like you said, she was talking to you about things that maybe she wouldn't talk to anybody else about.
Oh yeah,
Like,
very much so. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
yeah, like, people when you're in a relationship, any type of relationship like that, people have your heart in their hand, and I think that sometimes they don't realize how like, what a big deal that is.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, and
Mhm.
I was so obsessed with just waiting for her next message.
Mhm.
It's like I realized that's why I realized I had to. It was just it was I just had to back off of the whole thing. But and it was bringing back vibes of a woman who I had actually had a relationship several years ago, and we met not this was before texting was even a thing, so we actually talked over the phone. We talked like like I don't know, a long time. I don't, it might have been a couple of months before we actually finally met. And it was bringing back vibes of that, like, because I kept on saying to that woman, we actually met, and we spent a lot of time together eventually. But it was the same kind of thing. It was like I was getting frustrated with her because I kept on saying, when are we going to meet, when do you want to and she kept on putting off and finding excuses and all this, and it's like, the same kind of scenario come. I said, "Do you want to meet?" And the same thing would happen. "Oh yeah, I'd like to meet, and it'd be fun and everything." And the other, it turned out that I built up the other woman too much in my head, and it turned out when we finally got together, we weren't really compatible, and we spent a lot of time together, but it's just it wasn't meant to be. That was just not a bad situation altogether anyway. So
Mm, I'm sorry, and it sounds like it was a lot of time spent too, getting to know one another and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so and this what that because of that situation, this one was, like I said, was it was bringing back the same kind of vibe, because instead of being over the phone, it was texting, and I was just feeling. I said, "This is so reminiscent. This is so, it's just I kept on feeling the same. Like I said, I'm repeating myself here, but the same thing over. It's just repeating itself, and I got to get out. I'm thinking I better get out of this. So it was slowly but surely, I was realizing I need to get out of it anyway. So I hope sh
Mhm.
I was kinda at the end, I did tell her that I think we should go our separate ways, and she didn't respond to that final message after that, and I did feel kinda maybe I hurt her feelings when I said that. I hope I didn't, but I did really feel like maybe I'd hurt her feelings at that point, but I don't know. At the same time, it just didn't seem like we should be talking anymore, so
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 people in it, right? So if it didn't work for you, then, you were honest.
Mhm.
What more could you ask for from a relationship, At least when it ended, you were really honest and you didn't drag it on. So I have a lot of respect for that. Because some people, like, there's that whole thing with ghosting, where some people just stop communicating and they don't even tell you what happened. There's no sense of closure. At
Yeah,
least you offered her that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I will, getting back to the movie, that there's some aspects of this that are I could relate to. Obviously, this is more from a female perspective in the movie, and I didn't have it. It was involving a woman. This was a long time ago, back in the 1990s. I'm not going to mention any names, but when she saw the part where she when her was he like an ex? What was he exactly? Just like a love
Yeah, he was an ex, but it almost seemed like they dated for a while years ago, and then they broke up, but then he still like, she was still his safety in a lot of ways.
Okay.
So, like, I think he liked the fact that she was so into him
Mm,
still, and he was kinda stringing her along a bit.
right. In this right here, the scene where she realizes that he's getting married, the announcement that I was in a similar situation with this was a completely different woman, nothing to do with the woman I've been talking about. And the way she ran away and cried, I was like, oh yeah, I knew that feeling right away. So
Huh.
this felt completely believable to me. Like I said, some of the movie was believable, some was not. This felt like 100% I could relate to. So
Mm. That was, like, gut-wrenching too. I'm so sorry.
the worst part of that scenario was, the woman and I worked at the same radio station, and I actually quit my job because of that. But
Wow.
the thing was that they had 2 stations. I didn't quit the other job. I only quit the one station, not the other station. I was still working at the music station. So there was a talk station and a music station. So when I came to my senses before I quit the second job because I was going to quit both of them. I realized, wait a minute, what am I doing here? I'm quitting a job over a woman. And then I realized, okay, I'm going to keep my other job. I'll still do the job at the other stations. We were still in the same building because the stations were right down the hall from each other. So, but, yeah, I was just too devastated the first time. It should but yeah, like, I gave myself a few days, I was able to come back and realize I made a mistake by quitting, but the interesting thing was, like, a month or 2 later, they changed the format on that station, everyone got fired anyway, so it didn't really matter. I felt bad at first, but then I realized oh, well, I probably would've lost my job anyway when they've changed the format, so it was no real major loss, just kind of a stupid act on my a stupid move on my part, so,
Mm. Well, I mean, heartbreak. It could, love makes us do crazy things.
yeah, yeah, and there was one more devastating thing because she and I were still in the same building, she was dating another man, and I'm still not 100%, but I'm pretty sure she did this on purpose. She knew I was in the on-air studio, because I was doing the relaxing romance. This is the only music station I ever worked at. All the other stations that are formats I work were always talk, news, radio, but this I actually worked at one music radio station. So it was doing the 8 to midnight shift. They called it relaxing romance. It's just basically music for couples to get together to feel good, which is the worst kind of music I could have been listening to. So, but she finished
No.
her shift, and the guy she was dating and her walked onto the hallway, and she knew that there was a surveillance camera in the hallway that I could see in my studio, and she reached over and kissed him, and that was like, that just I at that point, I completely lost it, so and I'm s
That
this
that's like take the knife and slide it right into my heart.
yeah, and I to this day, I'm pretty sure she did it on purpose, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100%, but I think she did that on purpose, so
Well, that was really mean.
and, yeah,
She's doing it
that
on purpose. Why would she wanna hurt you? She was with somebody, like, oh, that's not nice.
well, what happened was, I found out later that after I quit, that she had done something with another male, employee at that same station before I was there, and she had actually but after I left, they found out that there was something going on, and they brought her into the head office, and they said, this is not the first time this has happened with you," and she got in trouble for the whole thing. So that's why. I think she was kind of angry. I think she was like like a small payback. So,
Wow, not nice.
yeah. So, but yeah, getting back to this movie, yeah, I definitely, her reaction there was, I could fully relate to that. But this is where it gets unbelievable. So, jumping further ahead, she meets another guy, and it's like, if she was so much in love with the guy in the first place, how did she get over the first love so quickly? That I don't believe. That I don't believe would. I think if she met someone that quickly, I believe the second relationship she had would just be awful because she'd still be focused so much on the previous relationship.
Yeah, are you talking about Kate Winslet or Cameron Diaz now?
Her right here. I'm sorry.
Kate Winslet. Okay. No, no,
yeah.
that's fine. So, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like the other relationship would be a rebound. But then it's so interesting too because the other guy that she ends up with, like he just broke it off with his ex too,
Right.
that he was supposedly in love with for like 2 or 3 years, right? They were together?
Yeah, there's Jack Black, right? That's who.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
okay, yeah. Right. And yeah, so you have two people coming together who just broke up with somebody. How long do you think a relationship like that in real is going to last? I mean, it's I've been in a scenario like that. And it just destroys it. You have to if you love someone that much, it just doesn't work. It just really doesn't work. I mean, for me it doesn't. I don't maybe some people it does. I don't know. But the way she
Mhm.
was acting, I just don't think it would. So,
No, I don't think so. I was with somebody a very long time, and when we broke up and I would date somebody else and it wouldn't work, and then I go back to him, and then it was a lot of back and forth for about 7 years, so, yeah, I agree with you, Zoom, I don't think so, but it's that's the beauty of Hollywood, right? It's a movie.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is this is the scene right here. She meets this guy, okay, and it's like they just met and they're gonna start kissing and have sex. And I'm thinking about my first thought, okay, this is another scene that's completely unbelievable. However, I completely forgot that this has actually happened to me. So I realized, oh, it is actually 100% believable. I had met women on dating services. We'd go out and we'd go back to I'd go back to her place. This happened a few times. It wasn't just once. And the woman invited me in. She said, "We want to spend the night." And I said, "Sure." And and then we just met. We just gone out like once, and they were already asking me to have sex. And I said, "No, no, I don't do that." And they couldn't. They would get all upset with me because every time they'd always tell me to leave because every time because my feeling is I don't have sex with women that I don't love. It's because that's something special to me. So and
Mhm.
and the
Yeah,
woman
that's beautiful.
they got very upset and they would kick me every time they kicked me out. So, uh,
Wow, that's so interesting, and, that's, that makes me think of how, like, we have, like, preconceived notions that maybe, like, because of the way men are portrayed in movies, that a man like, it's odd maybe for a man to deny a woman, so I love that,
and
you know?
the one woman she kicked me out and I left in this middle. She lived in Baltimore and I lived in Virginia. Oh, so it was a quite a commute, quite a trip. I mean, but,
Mhm.
I got out of the house so quickly, I forgot my belt 'cause I'd actually was sleeping over there at her house, and I'd actually partially declothed. I wasn't, it wasn't anything else other than that, but I just put my pants on real quick, and I forgot to put my belt on. The next day, she called me up, and she was leaving me messages saying, I'm sorry. You left your belt over here. Do you gonna come and get it?" I just ignored it. I said, I'll just get a belt somewhere else." So,
I'm not driving all the way back to you to get it.
yeah.
Drop it in the mailbox.
So so what was your as far as what you obviously you like this movie. Is this a movie? I guess why don't you explain how you feel about this movie?
I guess for me, it's like a feel-good movie. I love a happy ending. I love a love story. So for me, it's just like feel good. You don't have to think too much about it. And I love holiday movies. I love the feeling of Christmas and the holiday season. So I love it. But I mean, when you start to dissect it, it really is not very believable. Like even Cameron Diaz, like she's in Kate Winslet's house, this cute little country house in England, right? And all of a sudden in walks Kate Winslet's brother. Like, come on, does that really happen in real life? And the brother is so handsome and he's dashing, and then you end up like what you're saying, Zoom, you end up going to bed with them. So it's so funny.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's a little bit of a predictable romantic comedy, but it's just cute.
Mhm. And the old man here, he was pretty interesting too. Um, I was scanning through there. He was a producer, a director, or something. What was he?
I think he was a writer. He
A
was a
writer.
he was a writer.
Okay. And he takes her out on a I guess I guess they realized she realized they both realized it wasn't really a date, but they called it a date. So and
Mhm.
then they take it to he has his little thing at the very end. That really wasn't really relevant to the rest of the story, was it? But he had a little celebration for his career.
Yeah, I don't think it was really relevant, but I thought it was cute because it highlighted the fact that he really didn't wanna go. He thought it was gonna be this stupid little thing, and it ends up being, like, this huge event honoring his life.
Okay.
So, I don't know, maybe the idea that some of us are modest and other people really appreciate us, we're not even aware.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
But this
And
that was cute too with the kids. That was cute.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was, um, as far now, I'm trying to come up with something to add on to what you're saying there. My mind's drawing a little bit of blank though, because the movie it's just basically the relationships, and that's essentially it. There's nothing really. There's not really much of a plot otherwise, is there?
No, it really is a total romantic comedy, just probably you're so mad at me for making you watch it, right?
Oh no, no, it was fine. It was okay. It was okay. I
I warned you before before we watched it. I said, "This is a total romantic comedy. If you don't wanna watch it, you don't have to."
No, it was fine. Like you said, I liked certain parts of it, and like other parts were unbelievable. It was also interesting to see Jack Black playing a more serious role because he's never usually this serious in movies. So uh,
Mhm,
most of the time he's more of a joking person. And he's just more of a straight laced. It's kind of a mostly in this movie. Um,
mhm.
otherwise, let's see. Yeah, I got to the end there. There's nothing else much I can really add to that. The as far as romantic comedies, is this? I mean, I've seen there are some romantic type movies that I've watched where the romance is actually the subplot, and I usually like those a lot. This one is the whole plot, so it
Mhm,
and it's not that I definitely don't hate it by any stretch. It's not something I probably want to watch again. By but it's as far as I definitely did not nowhere like what you thought I would do, and I did not despise it or anything like that. It was enjoyable to some extent, and it was interesting to watch and see how unbelievable some things were. Like I said, and the belief about the way I could relate to certain things. So it definitely had my interest throughout the entire thing. Um,
oh,
but Chris,
good, but I maybe moving forward, I'll let you pick the next one.
the is as are I know I remember I was going to say, do you watch romantic comedies like this on a regular? Is this like a regular thing for you?
I think when I was a little bit younger, maybe when I was single, I would like to watch them more, but I don't watch them as often. Like the movie, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Serendipity. It's another romantic comedy with I think John Cusack is in it. It's like that one's really cute. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a cute one, but I haven't watched a romantic comedy in quite some time until I watched this one when I was sick a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Serendipity, I know that one, but I don't think I've seen it. When did that come out? Was that an older movie?
Oh, yeah, it's older. It might have came out like 1999, maybe. I
Okay,
can
that's also
Google it.
yeah. I'm gonna bring that up as well. I when you said that it's I don't even know how to spell serendipity. Let's see. I'm gonna try.
Serendipity.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna use say John Cusack instead. Oh, I can't even spell his name. There it is.
There it is, 2001.
There we go. Oh, okay, okay. That's like I said, I've heard of it. So, there it is. Gotcha. Ser- Okay, serendipity. Now this one has a 6.9. So, no, you said this was what? I'm sorry. How did you describe this again?
This was just one of my favorite romantic comedies when I was younger.
Oh, okay.
That's
And
all. It's cute.
as far as is it follow the same kind of premises though as the holiday?
Yeah, I mean, their love story is the plot.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
that's the movie basically.
All right. You're right. I guess I have not watched too many love stories. Yeah, most of the stories I watch where the love story, like I said, is usually the subplot or the what they call the B plot, I guess. So there's a
Mhm.
love story there, but as far as the or it's not really the focal point of what the story is actually about sometimes. I'm trying to think. I recently saw a movie called Warm Bodies, which is a parody or it's about zombies, but in the movie it's a zombie that basically is trying to find his humanity again, and he ends up falling in love. He's a young guy and he ends up falling in love with a young woman who's not a zombie.
I
So
think I saw this movie a lot. Is it an older movie?
2013 is when it came out.
Yeah, I
So
think I saw it. Mhm.
okay, so that's kind of like that. That's one I also saw, and you might laugh at this one. I actually I applied for a job one time way back in the about for to be a radio producer, and the women at the it was a show hosted by women, and they were looking for somebody who could produce a show and knew understood women's topics. And I told them, well, I watched a movie recently that had a romance in it, and it was the movie Joe Dirt, and they just started laughing at me like I just said the stupidest thing I ever could have said. So I did not get the job at that point. I think that's what kind of cinched it for me not to get it. But in the movie Joe Dirt, there is a a subplot about romance, which is actually pretty good. So um,
Yes, I haven't seen that movie in a very long time, but there is a cute little love story in there.
okay, oh, so you have seen that, so you
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about. Okay, okay,
Mhm.
all right. So, so that's good. So that brings up the question as far as like these kinds of movies. Do you think do you think they people like them because they're how should I phrase this? Are they help do they because they're trying to relate to people? They're looking for some sort of happy something to get them out of their maybe something people are just depressed and they want something to make them happy, or are they looking for just something that's just fun to watch? I mean, how would you describe these kinds of
Why
movies?
I'm trying to think why I watch them because I don't know that idea of like there's somebody for everybody, like the idea of, you know, the perfect love story basically. So yeah, I think it's like an escape. People read them to escape. I and it's interesting I just said read them because my mother, growing up, my mother always read romance novels and
Mm.
books, and she recently told me, she's like, "I read them to escape." She's like, "So I don't have to think." She's like, "'Cause they're cute." And literally, if you read a romance novel, the love interests meet right at the beginning of the book, and then the whole book is just them trying to work it out.
Oh,
Like,
no, I've never,
very
yeah,
similar to, like, a romantic comedy. It's like the same thing, but in book form.
yeah, I've never read a romance novel. Is that something you've done on a regular basis?
No, no. I picked up maybe 1 or 2 when I was younger because my mother had them, but honestly, I don't really like them
Hmm.
because
Okay.
they're very typical, they're very like what I said, I don't wanna be judgmental because some of them, I'm sure there are people that are huge fans of romance, and I respect that, that's great, like, that's their thing, but for me, I don't know, when I read, I like novels, I like undertones and meanings behind things, and I like to learn things. I don't know, I don't really enjoy romance novels.
Gotcha. Now, is there? I, I'm not looking for. I'm not. This question I hope doesn't come across the wrong way. But is the romance novels just basically about the relationships? Do they start getting into sexual encounters? And I'm not saying I want to hear about that stuff. I'm just curious as to how
Oh,
they.
no, I mean, I think it depends, there's all different types of romance. So there's, like, that. There are ones where they write about that, there are ones where they don't write about that, so
Okay.
oh, there's a whole, like, world of romance novels. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So the I've never had an interest to read them, so this is new and this is basically very new and very unfamiliar territory, I guess. So it's
Mhm.
uh,
That's
I
fine. You can ask me anything. It's
okay.
fine.
The as far as the movie, I mean, so basically they all sound like they're just kind of like the same. There's not really much of a plot. It's just the two of them just doing whatever they want to do together, and then they I guess they almost always. I mean, do they always end up together in these romance novel, the ones you read anyway? Do they end up together at the end?
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
Okay, so it sounds like it's maybe like a feel good thing.
Yes, absolutely. That's what my mother would tell me when she would read them because she
Uh,
wanted to escape and feel good and be happy and have a happy ending, and it's a love story, so, yeah, that's why she read them.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, would you, I'm trying to say this out. Would you recommend any particular kind of romance novels or any particular writers out there that are pretty good? Or
I don't know, I think the only one that I can recall from ever reading, because I was a lot younger when I had read them, was, like, Danielle Steele. I feel like she would that was, like, one of the typical, like, romance kind of genre books.
okay,
Mhm.
all right,
But it's been a very long time.
okay.
I feel like now all I read are, like, books on yoga and books on, like I'm gonna turn around and see what recently Ayn Rand books. I love to read Ayn Rand.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, I just read a book because I'm also a nutrition coach, so I just read a book about, it's called Anti-Cancer: A New Way of Life. It was such a good book about the connection between the foods that we eat and, like, cancer prevention, things like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's it. Cancer prevention as far as like, is it just helps you prevent cancer? I mean, how does that? That's interesting because how would that? I how
Yeah,
does
so it's a lot of the foods that we eat in this country unfortunately are processed. So
right?
it talks about the importance of bringing whole foods into our diet and how certain foods can benefit us to help our body to block cancer cells. So like it basically talks now I didn't finish the whole book, but the book does discuss how we all have cancer cells in our bodies. It's the way that our bodies either fight them or they overtake the cells, the cancer. So the doctor who wrote the book was talking about how certain foods can help your body's immune system to work a little bit harder against the cancer and
Hmm.
block it. So it was just really interesting. I'm learning right now about berries, about the benefits of all different berries.
Oh, okay.
And there was also a few benefits of drinking green tea.
Now, as far as the processing, what is it? Starch that's added to the food? Is that what I'm thinking of? Um,
Yeah, so it's like it's basically sugars. So a lot of the foods in our country have sugars in them that we don't even realize. Like there are foods that are savory that we don't even think have sugars in them, but they do. And sugars help. Unfortunately, cancer lives on sugar.
mm,
So the
okay.
more sugar we have in our body, the more, the cancer can continue to replicate.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I told you I'm I've been on a restricted diet for a long time, so I've actually I'm somewhat aware of some of these foods. In fact, my diet is basically chicken, a lot of any kind of meats except for pork. I don't I'll eat vegetables as long as there's no sugar in it. And what's the other thing? A lot of water and let's see, what else? I mean, I'm very limited on what I eat. A lot of what else do I eat? Can't remember. To help with my calcium deficiency, I drink kefir. Or I don't know if, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. You're probably familiar with it. You know what I'm talking about? Kefir or kefir?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I always say kefir, but I don't even think that's right either. So, but yeah, it's a form, isn't it like a goat milk or a
It's
fermented milk?
something like that, yeah. And
Mhm.
it's an acquired taste because it doesn't really taste that great at first. So after a while you get used to it. But yeah, um, what else? Yeah, yeah, I've avoided all the what you're talking about, the processed food. I avoid that on a regular basis. So I'm probably one of the few
Mhm.
people that doesn't have any of that in my system right now. And it was when I first stopped eating it, my body was like really starving for it. But after a while, it's like my body just kind of like now it's like it's not too bad. So, but if I go back
Mhm.
into it, I have some extra stuff in my body that will just basically react really badly to it. So that's why I have to avoid it. So, but
Mhm.
I do remember eating sugary stuff and just I just had to I had to consume a lot of sugar, and it's like my body was like, "Oh," and it's like I couldn't figure out why I was so hungry for sugar, and that's when I had to then my condition would act up, and I was like, "Okay, now I gotta stop eating that." I realized if it was something I liked and I started craving it for some reason, that was my body telling me they wanted more, so I had to stop eating it. So I had to add that to the list of things I could not eat anymore. So
Wow, do you have now I don't want to ask anything you don't want to answer, but so if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But do you have like digestive issues or you have
no,
like just intolerances or allergies to things?
no, it's more it's basically, you know what candida is? It's I have a candida imbalance in
Mhm.
my system. I my balance it's really far off, really, really far off. So,
Okay. Yeah, so sugar can aggravate that, right?
yeah, yeah, that's why.
Mhm.
So and that's why I have to avoid all that kind of stuff, and, yeah, if I start eating anything sugar, it's like my body just goes, it's like all of a sudden I'd be like, "I gotta eat that." I just have this major craving all of a sudden, so but,
Mhm.
yeah. And, yeah, it's but, yeah, you're talking about the processed food. Yeah, it's once I got off of that stuff, it's like it was weird because I was craving even when before I got the imbalance, I would just crave the stuff, and it was like it took a while for me to adjust not wanting to have that kind of food, and I as far as the input, I mean, the it was amazing how much stuff out there is just I couldn't eat because it's, all the processing that's in there like you were talking about.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of things. We don't I think like from a younger age I wasn't taught that, and as I got older I started to become more aware. And yeah, I do. I'm the same way. I really do limit anything processed. I'm mostly plant-based, mostly whole foods.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Is that, what kind of, as far as, like, what kind of I mean, what kind of meals do you have? Do you if you don't mind me asking? I'm just kinda curious.
Oh, that's fine. Absolutely. I eat I eat a lot of salads. Uh, I eat falafel. I make falafel. I'm a pescatarian, so I'll eat fish. So I
Huh.
eat salmon, I eat shrimp, all that stuff. I love chickpeas. I eat chickpeas all the time as my protein.
Oh.
I eat oatmeal, I make oat pancakes in the morning, omelets, eggs.
Oh, that's something I also
Mhm,
that's another thing, eggs. I do eat a lot of eggs too. Yeah. I forgot
mhm.
about that. So, yeah, that sounds good. Actually, that sounds pretty good. So you're, basically no meat at all, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't eat any no. Mm-mm.
Hmm. Was that hard to do? I well,
No,
well, you know what? I'm assuming that you ate meat before. So did you eat meat before? That's I guess
mhm.
was
So I never really liked the taste of red meat.
okay.
No, so for me, it wasn't hard at all.
Okay.
Every
Gotcha.
once in a while, I do miss chicken though.
Oh, okay. This I'm laughing
Like,
because I eat chicken every day, so
yeah, I like grew up on chicken noodle soup. It's like my favorite thing. So every once in a while I do so like let's say I don't cheat, but sometimes I will sneak a chicken noodle soup if because I love
um,
it. Otherwise I'm a pescatarian.
okay. Well, as getting back to the movie, what would you, how would you oh, well, you really like this movie, so how would you rate this movie?
Yeah, I think it's so cute. I think it's a feel good comedy. It's a way to escape. If we really take the time to analyze it, we realize so much of it is just not believable at all. But I give it a 9 for feel good.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give it, like, about, maybe a little less than a 7, maybe a 6.8. I won't quite give it a 7 at the 6 range, so
Fair enough. We have the male perspective.
alright.
Well,
So
thank you for humoring me, Zoom, and watching it.
and I want to emphasize I did not hate it or anything. So I know you said I would, but no, I definitely did not. So let's bring up our question from earlier. It looks like we got a relatively interest getting up there in the votes. That is 75 so far, with overwhelmingly 80% saying hell yeah. Do you trust? Oh, whoops. Okay. That's interesting. Do you trust politicians? Actually, I thought they'd be the other way around. Oh, did we do? Oh, we do.
Mhm.
Oh, no, we did. I did this. We did this wrong, did we?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because do you think they're liars? And then we're like, So I don't know which one they're answering. Do they trust them or do they think they're liars?
So, I didn't catch that till just now. Whoops, sorry. And we can't change it either. So I guess we'll just leave it there. Hopefully, if someone will come and leave a comment trying to correct us as to what we did there. So, but oh well. Oh well. I guess this poll is kind of like up in the air at this point. But
Let's see. We'll see. Keep us on our toes. We'll see what happens next week.
so 80% with hell yeah, 13% with I don't care, I don't vote, and that 7% with I trust every politician. So, and then only one person so far saying first with a little smiley face. So, alrighty.
Awesome.
So, all right. So, anything else you like to add before we wrap everything up?
No, just thank you. This was a fun conversation this evening. Do all different topics, so that was fun.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, I like
Mhm.
these guys. These kind of shows where they go wherever they want to. So, alrighty. All right, everyone. Thanks for participating in the poll, but even though it's kind of worded kind of awkwardly, and thanks. We'll see you next week.